everyone. Welcome to Spirit of Success University and Planning for Success. I am so excited that you prioritized your business today by taking this time to focus on how to become more effective in planning your daily actions in order to achieve your goals. This is the number one most requested topic of all the topics that I have a chance to share and to teach. So you made a very wise decision to be on today. And so again, be sure that you have the handout that you received in the confirmation that you got when you did register. It'll be real handy if you have that. And also if you have your date book or your planner, your calendar, whatever you use to keep track of what you're doing. That'll be great to have by your side today as well. As I mentioned, this is the number one most requested topic that I'm asked to share with my clients, from my direct sales clients like all of you, to my corporate business clients that I serve, and also to church groups that I work with. And I know for some of you ladies, this is not your first time in taking this class. And if so, hey, welcome back. This is definitely a topic that we all need to focus on more than once, because how we use our time impacts everything in our lives. And so we want to get it right. And we go back to it again and again to brush up on things. So I'm so glad that if you've been on before, that you're back. And if this is your first time, welcome, welcome. People will often say things like they want to manage their time better, or they need to get more organized, or, they want to get more done, or they need to make more time. If you've ever uttered those similar words, and I'm sure you have, you're in good company today. We all have said those things. And today we're going to just kind of scratch the surface of this topic over the next 60 minutes or so. This is, by the way, normally a 3-hour class, but rest easy. I'm only going to keep us for 60 minutes. But if you stay focused and engaged, I promise that you will leave with actions that you can take to change the way you are currently approaching your time in your business. So today we're going to focus on 3 keys for planning for success in your business. First, we're going to talk about and understand the power of priorities. You hear a lot about priorities today. Secondly, you're going to identify your most important goals, especially your immediate goals for the next few months. And then third thing we'll focus on is how to schedule your daily goal actions into your daily planner. So we're going to start off today with a challenge, okay? It's called the 86,400 challenge. So imagine that when you woke up this morning, that you were handed $86,400. Now, once you got over the shock, the challenge would be to determine how to spend it. Now, most wise people would determine how to spend it based upon their greatest need versus frittering it all away on small stuff. Well, in reality, when you wake up each morning, you may not be handed $86,400. I get that, but you are handed $86,400 worth of something else. Can you guess it? Seconds in the day ahead of you. 86,400 represents how many seconds are in each day. And the challenge for us each day is to determine how to spend them. Now, wisdom says, based upon your greatest need versus frittering it all away on small stuff. No matter what you do, you won't get more seconds or minutes or hours for that matter in your day. You can, however, get the most out of those hours with prioritizing. Your greatest possession is time. Time is your greatest possession. The seconds, the minutes, the hours that you have before you. And your daily challenge is how you'll spend them. And it's critically important to make that decision each day, because once your time is spent, it's gone. You cannot get it back. And so, ladies, in this way, time is far more valuable than money, because you can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. The reality of time is once it's spent, it's gone. It's gone forever. Have you ever heard anybody say, I'm going to make more time to do this or that? Maybe you've said that yourself. I think you probably all have. But as we've discovered, we cannot make more time in our day. And since that's the case, how we decide to use the time we have does become our focus. How we decide to use our time reveals our priorities, what's most important to us. And there is a difference between priority management and time management. So now hear me on this, because I'm a real stickler on this one. Time cannot be managed. Time moves on regardless of what we do. We cannot control time. We cannot manage time. There's no such thing as time management. So let's remove that from our lexicon. We'll continue to frustrate ourselves if we think we can manage time. Even Albert Einstein himself said that time management is an oxymoron. It's like jumbo shrimp. It just doesn't make sense. We cannot manage our time, but we can manage our priorities and how we spend our time. We can make decisions on what we do and when we do it. We cannot manage our time, but we can manage our priorities. So you might ask yourself, well, how do I determine my priorities? Because everything seems important. Everything seems like a priority. You're probably there with me on that one. Well, so to determine what your priorities are, look at three main categories: your personal life, your family life, and your direct sales business life. So how do you determine priorities in each of those three categories? Well, leadership expert and author John Maxwell, in his book Today Matters, which, by the way, is peeking right over my shoulder. I hope you've got eagle eyes and are checking out the books on my desk, because these are some terrific ones to go along with priority management, but especially the one from Maxwell called Today Matters. In that book, he suggests you ask yourself 3 questions in order to determine your priorities in those 3 categories. You'll see them right there on your handout. So the first question: what is required of you that only you can do? That's the first question to ask yourself to discover what your priorities are. What's required of you that only you can do? So you got to be clear that you must do it personally versus those things that you could reasonably delegate to someone. So that's the first thing. What's required of you? Second thing to ask yourself to discover your priorities is, what are your highest ROI activities? So be clear about those activities that provide you with the highest return on your time investment, ROI, return on your time investment. See, this helps you prioritize the most effective use of your time. And here's a real helpful tip. When in doubt, prioritize people investment over project or task investment, because people investment always pays a higher return on your investment. So for example, let's say you have a choice between making follow-up calls or updating your hostess spreadsheets. Now, both have importance in your business, but follow-up calls to your hostesses and customers have a higher ROI, return on your investment. So always choose to start with people contact first before projects or tasks. So that second question, what gives you the highest ROI? And then to discover your priorities, the third question to ask yourself, and again, you see these right there in your handout. Maxwell says, ask yourself, what gives you joy? What gives you joy? Maxwell says, if you do only what you must, which was that first question, what's required of you, and what is effective, which that was the second question, your ROI, you will be highly productive for sure. But you may not be content. So it's important to also consider among those questions, question 3, what gives you personal satisfaction when you decide your priorities? So what gives you joy? That is also important to consider when identifying your priorities. Okay, so now that you have those 3 questions to consider in order to determine your priorities, you'll want to apply those to those 3 main categories of your life: your personal life, your family life, and your direct sales business life. Now, While our focus today is on your direct sales business priorities, the reality is most of you have family, young children, other jobs outside your home, and those impact your direct sales business time. You may have several hours during the day to work your business, or you might have only a few 30-minute blocks of time scattered throughout the day. Or perhaps you're working full time outside your home, and so you have the challenge of making the most of a few hours in the evenings. Establishing your priorities in all three categories, your personal life, your family life, and your direct sales business life, is so important. When your time is more limited, your priorities need to be more evident, and your schedule planning needs to be more intentional. So I encourage you on your own, schedule 30 minutes in the next couple of days to sit quietly and to write out your family and personal priorities. Use the 3 questions that are right here on your handout to help you with your thinking. Because true life balance only comes when you first identify your personal and family priorities. Now, for the rest of our time together today, however, we're going to turn our attention to the priorities in your direct sales business life. Now, some of those types of priorities could include some of the things that you see listed on your handout. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, and I expect that you're going to add to this list, but just to get us started, some examples of some direct sales priorities. Remember, you're going to ask yourself, what gives you the greatest return on your investment? What can only you do? And what gives you happiness and joy? So think about those 3 things with regard to your business. Now, number 1, I wrote down holding shows. Well, that's easy to put as a priority because that is your number 1 job. And isn't it wonderful to have options for how you can conduct shows? In-person home shows, hybrid shows, virtual shows. We're blessed to have options. But isn't it so good to be back face to face with your hostesses and customers again in the home? No doubt many of you are prioritizing in-home, in-person shows again. So that's certainly high priority. Secondly, scheduling new shows. Scheduling new shows, always a high priority. If we're not booked, we're not in business, right? Amen? If we're not booked, we're not in business. Booking new shows from your shows is the most efficient and effective way to schedule your shows. So that's a high priority. Third, preparing for your shows, whether you're doing in-person shows or virtual shows, there's prep work to do before a show, and you want to schedule that, prioritize that. From preparing your display to preparing posts on social media to generate excitement. Number 4 is hostess coaching. It's good business to prioritize hostess coaching to help your hostesses make the most of the show option that she's chosen. So that's also a priority in your business. Number 5 is customer follow-up. It's the savvy consultant who prioritizes connecting after a show, follow up after the show with the hostess and with the guests to follow up, check in on their recent purchases, and then also to schedule ongoing follow-up so that whenever you send out new product introduction emails or just engaging with your customers in your Facebook community group or by text or private messages, these are ways that you will follow up, and of course you'll prioritize that. Another one, a top priority, is following up with recruit prospects. Whenever you meet those who you want to invite to take a closer look at what you do, at your career option for themselves, absolutely you want to follow up with that. That's a high priority. You want to share this career with others. You want to encourage others to put themselves in your shoes, to give this business a try for themselves, and then to be able to build a team and encourage others because of that. That's a high priority, but we're never going to get that done if we don't prioritize it and schedule the time for it. Number 7 might seem really obvious, submitting orders. After all, that's how your customers get their products, and that's how you get paid. So, right, that is obvious, but you'll want to make sure you put that in your list of priorities and then schedule time to tend to it so it doesn't slip through the cracks and end up costing you business. Number 8 is personal training. It's really wise to prioritize your own personal skill development, meetings, trainings, coaching calls, reading business books, listening to podcasts, and of course, engaging in courses like this, Spirit of Success University, and other courses like this. I applaud you for that. You prioritize that today, and of course, it's going to be on your priority list in the future. So remember that when you grow, when you get better, the people around you benefit. Your investment today in your own education makes you that much more valuable to your customers and hostesses because you took that time today. Number 9 type of priority is your team training and team connecting. Hey, you're a member of a team, and that team depends on you like you depend on them. And so, of course, you want to prioritize your team meetings and team calls. And if you are a team leader, of course, you put that in your list of top priorities, connecting with your team members and doing training with them. Social media, that has become an even bigger priority over the past several years, hasn't it? Social media, it's an opportunity to supplement your personal customer engagement on a regular basis. But I know for many of you, social media is the primary avenue for conducting your business. So I encourage you to prioritize social media use to the degree that it impacts your total sales and your serving and your recruiting, to the degree that it impacts your return on investment. I imagine for most of you, it's a pretty high return on your investment. And last one that I listed, but not necessarily the last one of all. I mean, I think your list will go on, but remember I mentioned people before projects. Notice that the majority of the things that we listed in 1 through 10 are about connecting with people rather than focusing on projects or tasks. And again, as I mentioned earlier, and I can't say it too often, when you're in doubt of what activity to prioritize people contact first over projects. Because trust me, there will always be time for projects if you'll put the people contact first. So these are just a few examples of the direct sales priorities, as I mentioned. So pause for just a minute, and I want you to circle 3 that you would list as your top priorities. Circle 3 that you would list as your top priorities. I'm sure like many of you around the country, we're experiencing some bad weather right now. I'm hearing thunder, claps, and booms. If I happen to disappear, I will get back with you. But I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing some bad weather. We've seen it across the country today. So just thought I'd plug myself in there just so you know. I won't leave you purposely. And we'll just pray for those thunderstorms to go away. So, hey, take one of the ones that you circled and put it in the chat space. Would love to see one priority that you circled, just to share that with each other and so I can take a peek at it. And by the way, I don't think this is an exhaustive list. I think that you will add to this list, and I'll encourage you to do so. Keep adding to that list because we've got to know what our priorities are. All right, booking new shows, not surprised. Customer follow-up, yes. Thank you. Prioritizing prospects. Deanne, customer follow-up. Thanks for that, Beth. Increasing your personal gatherings, your personal shows. Shirley, customer follow-up. Yes. Karen, booking new shows. Thank you for that. Denise, team training and connecting. You know, all of you have a little bit different, view of where your priorities are, but it's so important to keep that list going until you feel like, okay, those main areas you've listed, because now we can take the next step. Once you've identified your direct sales priorities, your next step is to determine what you want success to look like in those key priority areas. So if you had the opportunity to take our Get Goals in Spring 23 class back in January, you may remember that we discussed how to set effective goals that reflect your top priorities. So we'll just take a quick look at a few reminders from that. Remember that goals are specific, measurable targets you set for yourself and your business that provide you with direction. We got to have a target if we're going to fire off some arrows. We can't be firing off arrows in all different directions without a target. Goals are your target. They provide you with direction for your key business priorities. So I'm going to start us with just 7. Not exhaustive, but just getting started with 7. You see those listed on your handouts. These are 7 categories that you may choose to set as some of your goals in your business. And especially, I focus on goals 6 months at a time. So these are ones that I would say through June 30th, the first 6 months of this year. So the first one is total personal sales. What does success look like for you in total personal sales through June 30th? January to June 30th. What do you want your total personal sales to be? Do you have a number in mind? Jot that down. What do you want success to look like for your personal sales? January through June, 6 months. Second goal, what does success look like in total number of shows that you're holding? Your shows, your parties, your gatherings. How many shows? January through June, each month. You can break it out by month. Sometimes it's easier to think of it as 4 a month or 6 a month or 8 a month. How many shows, whether it's in person or virtual, just combine that. But how many shows per month? Kind of jot that down. Number 3, what does success look like for you in show average? Show average. So what do you want your show average to be between now and June 30th? Personal show average. It could be your in-person shows, your virtual shows. You may have 2 different ones. You may set a show average difference there, and that's fine. This is yours. Number 4, what does success look like in number of bookings per show? How many bookings per show are you looking for? What does success look like for you? Are you looking for 2 bookings, 3 bookings per show? Because remember, we said that is the most effective and efficient way to get bookings, is when you have that captive audience there on the other side of the screen if you're virtual, or right there in front of you in the living room if you're in person. Number 5 goal, what would success look like for you in new recruit prospects? And I say prospects particularly, not just new recruits. Yeah, you can put down a number. Maybe you want 1 or 2 or several new recruits, but I really want you to think about just people you'll talk to. Let's start there. How many people do you want to talk to? I call those prospects. How many do you really want to talk on the phone, in person at a show, in person at a coffee chat? But how many women do you want to talk to about your business between now and June? You know, you could maybe think 1 a week. You know, you could maybe have a dozen or so, or 1 per show that you want to talk to. How many prospects? Because we can't get a new team member until we have some prospects, right? So let's think of it in terms of prospects first. Let's not eat that elephant in one bite. Let's take those smaller bites. Let's talk about prospects. Number 6 goal. What does success look like for you in your monthly paycheck? I mean, after all, that is why we're doing this. So what do you want your paycheck to look like each month? Jot that down. And then number 7 is just any other area that you would like. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but it's a starter. It's a starter. So just for this exercise, pick the 1 goal that you put in, that you circled or that you put in the chat space. And I want you to think about that goal, because you're going to use that now. Use that category, I should say. Use that category, and you're going to turn it into a goal. You're going to kind of write that, statement down that we're going to take a look at in just a second. We're going to make it a SMART statement. So think about what you put in the chat space. Think about that category. Was it bookings? Was it training your team? Was it, prospects? What was it that you wanted, and you put it as a priority in the chat space. And then think about that as we go through this next section on SMART goals, because SMART goals are the way that we gauge the quality of your goals. And it helps to test your goals with the tool that we call SMART. And I'm sure you're familiar with SMART. If you were part of the Get Goals in Spring 23 class, you're familiar with the SMART test. You'll see it on your handout. S in SMART stands for specific. If your goal is a good quality goal, it's very specific. So saying something like, I will hold 4 shows each month through June 30th is a very specific SMART goal. I will hold 4 shows each month through June 30th, because it's specific. M in SMART is measurable. Your goal is measurable, specific amount, not just I'll do more shows. I'll do better hostess coaching. That's not measurable. You want it to be quantifiable, measurable. So in our example, 4 shows a month is a very specific quantifiable amount. A in SMART goals is actionable. So you want to make sure that your goal is something that you would have actions to be able to achieve it. So in our example of 4 shows a month, some of the actions you would need to achieve that is maybe you would invite your past hostesses to come to your home to see the new products. Maybe you would at that point be able to book some future shows from those hostesses who came to see the new product. Maybe then you would hostess coach those ladies who booked shows. So those are some of the actions in order to achieve your goal of 4 shows a month. So just make sure your goal is actionable. We'll talk more about actions in just a bit. R in SMART is realistic. Is it realistic? Is your goal realistic for where you are in your business right now? Now, one bit of caution here. Don't let realistic lull you into a too safe comfort zone. Michael Hyatt, author and expert on goal setting, recommends that the R in SMART also refer to risky, not dangerous risky, but stretchy risky. Realistic and risky meaning stretchy, but we had to have an R. So that's why I think he did the realistic anyway, or the risky, so that your goal stretches you outside your comfort zone. For example, the 4 shows per month is realistic for most consultants who are newer in their businesses or who work another full-time job. 4 shows a month is very realistic then. However, it may not be risky enough, stretchy enough for those who easily accomplish 4 shows a month already, and you've been doing it for a long time. Because you know what, guys? Playing it too safe will not be motivating. Realistic is good, but be certain it still stretches you a little bit so that you don't give up on a goal that is too safe. So for the R, think realistic and risky enough to stretch you. All right, and the T in SMART is time sensitive. Does it have a deadline date? As I mentioned, we're looking at goals that end on June 30th. So for our example, 4 shows held each month through June 30th is a goal that has a deadline date. So do you know what they call a goal without a date? A wish. A goal without a date is just a wish, and wishes are lovely for the wishing well, but they're not a business strategy. So no wishing. Deadline dates. All right. So pause for a minute, pick that goal category that you put in the chat space a minute ago, and I want you to write it out as a SMART goal. You'll see that I started it for you right there on your handout. It starts with I will and then finish it. Use that goal that you put in the chat space and do I will and finish it in your handout. And make sure that it passes the SMART test. All right, now take your SMART goal, your I will statement, put it in the chat space. Let's make sure that it's SMART, that it's specific, it's measurable, it's an action, it's realistic and risky enough, and it's T, time sensitive. So be sure that you I will and write the whole statement. Let's see some. All right, I will have 4 gatherings each month, March through June, June 30th specifically. Hey, Cassie, thank you so much. Or Casey, sorry, duh, my bad. What was I thinking? Mandy, I'll call new hostesses, 4 new hostesses. I saw that and then I went scrolling by. Norma, I'll do customer care follow-up and reach out to 25 people each week. Good, through June 30th. Just finish that little deadline date. Good deal. Good deal. Make sure you've got your deadline date, ladies, and your quantifiable amounts. And the I will at the beginning. I will hold 4 shows per month through June 30th. Ruth, yes, I copied you. It's not, it's good. It's a reasonable example. So thank you. Bless your heart. Thank you, Ruth. All right, guys. If, by the way, you missed the Get Goals in Spring 23 class, you'll find the replay posted in our Facebook community group, Spirit of Success with Beth Jones Shaw, so you can look for it there. Now, you've got your goals identified. We're going to move to the next step, which is breaking your goals down into actionable steps, as I mentioned just a minute ago. The actionable steps that are needed to achieve the goal become your daily priorities. They become your daily actions. So you'll notice this example on your handouts. Let's say in the example, you work a full-time job outside your home, you've got school-age children, and so your vision for your business is to provide for the extras for your family. You want your business to pay for your family vacation, to pay for the kids' music lessons or their summer camps. You've got a vision that your business will provide that. Well, in order to provide for that, your goal is then to hold for maybe 5 shows each month in order to earn the income needed for those family expenses. So to do that, you decide each month that you're going to hold 2 in-person shows and 1 virtual show with multiple hostesses. That'll get you those extra shows. So that's your plan. You're ready to schedule your February calendar. Your goal is to hold 4, maybe 5 shows. So what are some of the actions you'll take in order to secure those 4 or 5 shows? Well, you'll see some examples listed on the handout, not exhaustive, but first place to go is invite your past hostesses to see the brand new product that you have for spring. And that way, then they can pick their show date when you do a spring preview. That's a great place to start. Or you also might want to reach out to the hostesses who couldn't attend your spring preview and offer them available dates. It's another action you might take. You also would take hostess coaching action because those who pick dates, you want to start to hostess coach them so they're ready for their show. Also, you'll want to kind of do some pre-show social media posts. You'll also want to make sure that as you hold those shows, at those shows, you're inviting guests to book and that you're reserving time for follow-up to those guests after the show so that those who didn't book at the show have a second opportunity to do that. You know, those are just some of the actionable steps that you would normally take in order to book and hold 4 to 5 successful shows. So these action steps, guys, they now become your priorities, which you schedule into your calendar and you assign specific days. Look, we know just writing in your calendar the name of your hostess on that square box date is not enough to actually have a successful show. You've got to do all the actions before and after the show in order for it to be successful. If you've been a consultant for even a few months, you know those steps. However, you run into time challenges when you, ready, assume these steps and don't account for the actual time it takes for you to do them. Is that like to some of you? Did somebody need to hear that today? Somebody might have needed to hear that today. Are we assuming steps that we say, well, I know I have to do that, but we don't write it down? When that happens, you frequently end up overwhelmed at the last minute, trying to rush through forgotten steps, and your results are not as they could have been. Ever been frustrated by a show that could have been so much better if only you would prioritize the time to hostess coach a little more thoroughly? Could have been and if onlys. We can do better than that, guys. And you can cure it. And let me show you how. The cure for assuming is to decide when you will do each step and to schedule those actions, all of them, into your planner. In this way, you really are truly priority managing because you're scheduling all the steps you'll take in order to hold those 4 or 5 successful shows. You're not just waiting until the date is secured and just saying, oh yeah, I know what I need to do. No, taking into account all the steps and then scheduling the day and time that you're going to accomplish them helps you account for the actual time you use. For example, schedule the date and time that you'll talk with your hostess to coach her and prepare her for the show. Make it a priority and tell her as she's picking her date for her show that the 2 of you will also need to pick a second date prior to her show when you will be helping her prepare for her show. Scheduling your hostess coaching with your hostess, like scheduling the date for her show, will go a long way in making it a priority for her and you. And you'll see the difference. When you write every action into your calendar, you're no longer assuming your actions, but rather you're being accountable for the time that they take. So pause for just a second. And in your notes, you'll see an area where you can write down where you sometimes assume actions and don't always write them down. So a little honesty there, jot it down. Where do you assume in your business? This was a little bit of, been there. Get it. All right. Let's see it in the chat space. Let's see one area where you have been assuming your actions. One area. Everybody needs to encourage each other in this. We've all been there. Let's see one area where you tend to assume. Hostess coaching. Thank you, Karen. I bet you're not alone. Anybody else? Where have you been assuming actions? That my host is ready and that she's read every email. Thank you, Beth, or Jennifer put that your host has read every email. Whew, that's convicting. And Beth, your pre-show prep talk with your hostess, assuming. Nan, calling those 10 clients, assuming. Making follow-up calls shortly after the shows. Thank you. Felicia, hostess coaching. Amy, follow-ups. Thank you. Yes. What gets scheduled gets done, guys. What gets scheduled gets done. Remember that. If we don't write it down, it's probably not going to happen. So I hope that was really helpful, that just that awareness is like, okay, I'm smarter than this. I can do better than this. I can write it down. So let's make a commitment that we're not going to be assuming things. We're going to write things down. And I wonder how many of you will start to schedule your hostess for 2 dates, her show date, and at the same time, her hostess coaching date. Wonder how many of you might do that. If that resonated with you, maybe you can share that in the chat space too, because that can make a difference. All right. So the next step is moving your action steps now into your planner. And it'd be helpful to grab your planner, your calendar, your date book, make sure you have it right next to you as we go through this section. There are 3 components that make a good planner. You'll want to write these down on your handout because they're not on your handout. They didn't make the handout. So I want you to write these 3 things down. This is what, when you're looking for a good planner, these are the 3 things a good planner must have. All right. Number 1, monthly at-a-glance pages. Okay. The square boxes, right? February, March, April, etc. Sometimes they take 2 sides of your book, if you will. Sometimes it's 2 sides of your screen if you're more an online person, but a monthly at a glance. Okay. Monthly at a glance for the whole year. That's 1. Secondly, individual daily pages. Individual, so 31 pages to represent the 31 days of the month every month. Individual daily pages. Now, I know some of you have pages where there's like 5 days. That's a start, but that's not the best. If you'll flip to the back of your handout, look at appendix letter A. Please look at appendix letter A in the back of your handout. That is an example of what an individual daily planner page, a good, a workable, an effective, a professional planner page looks like. And you may have one that looks very similar. So appendix A is an example. That's the second thing a good planner has. And third, timestamps on the daily page. Again, appendix A, you see that there's timestamps, like an appointment book. So you know the time and you're scheduling your actions. If your current planner is great, but it doesn't have timestamps, you can just add them. Just add them. You see the example in Appendix A, just make your own. I honestly think that some of the best planners out there are the ones you make yourself, because it's got to work for you. It's got to work for you. So compare your current planner with these 3 necessary components. And look, I know your planner may have additional bells and whistles that you love, which is great. That's great. But an effective planner must, according to me, include those 3 components. I've been at this for over 40 years. Trust me on this one. And for those of you who are wondering, because I know some of you will ask, what do you recommend? I don't. I'm very careful not to recommend specific planners because there are so many good ones out there, both hard copy, which I typically prefer in my office, but also online versions, which I use when I'm out of my office. And some of you may do the same thing. The most important thing, though, is that with any planner, that it includes the 3 components that we just mentioned: months at a glance, daily pages, and timestamps. And then again, Appendix A can give you an example, a sample. Now, if you have a planner that includes all 3 of those and maybe more bells and whistles, and you love your planner, put it in the chat space, share it with your sisters. What planner do you use? Share, but if it has those 3 components, that's what I would recommend. All right. Now that we know the importance of the good planner, let's take a look at the 3 keys to moving your actions into your planner, scheduling them. All right, first, it's time to graduate from Post-it notes and yellow pads to a real planner. Post-it notes and yellow pads have their usefulness, but they're not a good way to run a business. A planner allows you to put your priorities, all those things you used to put on your Post-it notes and on your never-ending yellow pads, into one place. So those activities have an assigned date and time. And you'll want to schedule your family and personal priorities first, as we said before, like your kiddos' school schedules and activity schedules. You've got to put that in your planner first, or your own work schedule, your grocery shopping, your doctor's appointments, your hair appointments, Bible study classes, all of that goes in first. And here's what I know for sure. If you don't schedule everything regarding your family, your kiddos, and your personal priorities first, if you don't get them in your calendar first, really for the whole next 6 months, you're going to feel overwhelmed. And oftentimes your business gets blamed for why you feel overwhelmed. And really, it was a lack of planning. So please, please, please put everything regarding your personal, your family, your kiddos' schedules into your planner first. Do it as far in advance as you can. At least do it for the month of March, and do it as far ahead as you can. Assign everything a day and a block of time. And that way you can take a realistic look at the time you have remaining. And then you're much less likely to overcommit, overbook, become overwhelmed. Second key to moving your actions into your planner is with calendar blocking. Once you have your personal and family priorities scheduled or blocked into your planner, then you block your business priorities. Calendar blocking is a skill that I have a feeling you already use. I mean, think of it as pre-selecting in many ways. You already pre-select the dates that you want to hold your shows. You did that for the month of February. You've probably already looked ahead to March. I bet you've already reserved or pre-selected the dates that you're available to hold shows, virtual or in-person shows, in March. And you want to do that really all the way through June, so that those pre-selected dates your hostesses can now select from. So you use calendar blocking. But calendar blocking is also a skill to use for your daily planning, not just monthly, but daily, for your action steps. And this is where your planner with timestamps comes in handy. Don't worry, I'm not suggesting that you schedule every minute of your day. That would be unsustainable and oppressive. But instead, I just want you to think of those actions you need to take and give them a block of time so that you can focus your energy for, like a half an hour on one thing. Because remember this, energy follows focus. So if you can focus your energy, all of your energy on hostess coaching for the next half hour, that instead of, I'm going to hostess coach, then I'm going to jump on Facebook, then I'm going to jump to these emails, that's scattered. Energy follows focus. So when you can get a focus, when you can block half an hour, 20 minutes to focus on one area, energy follows focus. Your energy goes. You're better at what you're doing. Remember, where focus goes, energy flows. Where focus goes, energy flows. And if your focus is all over the place, if you're 1 second doing emails, the next second making phone calls, the next second sending texts, the next second you're running over and putting the laundry in. I mean, where focus goes, energy flows. And if it's scattered, that's why you're not getting done what you could get done. So do time blocking, calendar blocking whenever you can. Let me share an example. And I think it would be helpful to look at Appendix B and C in the back of your handouts. Appendix B and C is an example of time blocking. I shared earlier about booking and hostess coaching and such. That's a top priority for you. So you'll want to block time weekly to take those actions to book shows and prepare your hostesses, and not assume those steps, but rather schedule them. So you plan in advance how much time you're going to need, for creating those pre-show Facebook posts or for making hostess coaching phone calls. And initially it's kind of a guesstimate if you haven't really checked your time, but you'll know from your experience, and over time you'll get better with, okay, how much time do I need to reserve for my posts? How much time do I need to reserve for my phone calls? You'll get better and better at guesstimating. Then you pick a day and a time that you're going to block that time to make that hostess contact. And it's like making an appointment with yourself, like you're making a hair appointment. You've got a day or time for that. Do the same thing for hostess coaching. And it could be several times throughout the week. I'm not saying it wouldn't be, but start by setting a time. And it could be that your available time for hostess coaching has to be in several smaller blocks, or maybe you could get it done in one block for a week. Maybe you work a job outside the home, so your available, business time is limited to evenings. So scheduling the time that you do have is key. I mean, even if right now you're thinking, oh, I can't do this, I don't. Schedule what you do have. Think about what you can do. Don't focus on what you don't think you can do. Think of what you can do, what time you do have. Some hostess contact is better than none. And you know that you can do some of it by email, by text, by private message. But also remember this, ladies, your highest return on investment with hostess contact and prepping her for a show comes in your personal connection. Now, the key to calendar blocking is to be clear about your priorities and be clear about the time you have available. Then you assign each priority a time slot, like you see in Appendix B and C. When you have a day that you do not accomplish all your priorities as you had planned, which this is going to happen, then you reassess each incomplete task to see if it's still important enough. Is that still a priority if you didn't get it done? If it is, then assign it a time the next day or later in the week, or decide if maybe that could be done by somebody else or in a different way, or if it could be done better later in the month. But be really careful, guys, not to use that as an excuse to procrastinate a task that you don't like. Let's just be honest. You want to make sure that your highest priority tasks you do first. Remember, people contact before tasks, and do them first so that your highest priority is done and it doesn't become pushed off to the next day. Now, what you'll notice quickly is that calendar blocking puts you in control of when you take action on your highest priority tasks, and you have more control. Therefore, you have fewer crises, fewer things pile up or slip through the cracks. Calendar blocking helps you work and live intentionally and proactively. You're less likely to overcommit because you already have tasks on your schedule. It's so much easier to be able to say, hey, no, thanks for asking. I'm not able to do that because I have something else planned. When you know you have it planned, it's just much easier and less likely to overcommit. So look, I know for many of you, this you already do. So if you already calendar block, if you already do a lot of what Appendix B and C looks like, in the chat space, type I do. Just be an encouragement to others. Let them know you do this. Type I do. If your planner looks like B and C, good for you. Well done. Type I do. Look at that. Way to go, Karen and Denise. Good job. You saying you could do more? Okay, we all could, but good job. Okay, Nan, thank you for the honesty. Listen, if your calendar doesn't look like this, but you will try, you will give it a try. I want you to type I will. If you will give it a baby step, I mean a baby step this week, type I will. A baby step. Thank you, Nan. Ruth, Nadine, thank you. Deanne, a baby step. Shirley and Felicia, one little step. Good job. Good job. All right. The final key, ladies, to moving your actions to your planner is to stay open to the pivot point. Once you've established your schedule and you have calendar blocked your priorities for the month, what happens when something new is introduced to your schedule? When a new opportunity presents itself or a change occurs? The key to maintaining a successful schedule is knowing how to, ready, pivot, how to make adjustments when a new opportunity or when a change in your schedule occurs. And now that new thing is the top priority. For example, perhaps a new recruiting incentive was just introduced by your company, but it has a limited time for you to earn it, but you really want to go for it. So you decide you need to prioritize time to reach out to your prospects in order to discuss with them if now's the time for them to sign up. But in order to plan 30 minutes or an hour over the next couple of days to call your prospects, you've got to adjust your schedule because you already had other things scheduled, which means you need to take something else of lower priority, which you previously had scheduled. It needs to be moved to a different day. Now, the mistake would be in trying to wedge these new prospects calls or any new activity into an already full schedule, because that leads to overwhelm and it leads to stress. And ladies, we know it doesn't work. We've all been there. Remember, you can't magically make time for new activities. Rather, you schedule the time by moving a lower priority activity, taking something else off your plate before you add a new activity. So knowing how to pivot, how to adjust your schedule versus adding more to it is key to maintaining a successful schedule. All right. So as you begin to move your actions to your planner, remember those 3 points we just talked about. Stop using Post-it notes and yellow pads as your planner. Secondly, begin to assign your actions a daily appointment. And third, pivot to adjust rather than add to an already full schedule. So circle which of those 3 will you start on? Which of those 3 will help you most and you will start on? Just take a baby step. Just take a baby step. All right, well, we've gotten off to a good start on how to prioritize and plan your schedule to achieve your goals. Now, your job will be to decide what steps are most important to you and begin to implement just 1 or 2 small steps into your daily habits. So take a look at your action plan. I want to encourage you to start some new habits today by completing the action plan in your handout. Specifically, what's the one action you'll take immediately based on what you learned today? Let's jot that down. What's the one action you will take immediately? And I mean, one little thing is a big success today. All right, now put that one action in the chat space to encourage each other. And I would love to see it. It'll encourage me. It'll encourage your sisters on this call. Get a planner, block out your calendar. Thank you, Amy. One baby step. Schedule block your calendar realistically. Thanks, Denise. Mandy, time block the rest of your week. Love it. Love it. Love it. Felicia, time block. Ellen, block your schedule for the week. Good job, guys. Really good job. You know, as you can tell, we've really only just scratched the surface on how to efficiently and effectively prioritize your time. There's so much more to this topic. And if you're among those today who want more support in this area, I can help with that. Just as this is the #1 most popular workshop topic I'm asked to share, it's also one of the top areas of support and habit development that my coaching clients ask for. So whether for support in prioritizing your schedule or for reaching business goals, you'll go farther with the support of a coach. Actually, 87% of what you learn, you lose in 30 days if you don't put it into action. And that 87% difference is what I can help you accomplish. So if you don't take action on what you just wrote down within the next couple of weeks, you're going to forget 87% of what you learned today in this past hour. That would be a sad waste of time, but I can help with that. Not only can I help support you as you're implementing the skills that you learned today, but I can also help you tackle the true obstacle to your schedule challenges. It's your mindset. It's your thinking. How you think about your ability to create a workable schedule for your life. Well, that's the biggest obstacle. And so to tackle that, you and I can partner together for one-on-one coaching. And for today, I'm offering 4 one-hour sessions, private sessions, you and me, to get you started with the right thinking and get you started on implementing the things that we talked about today. And so for those 4 one-on-one sessions, they're just $400. And that offer is only good till Friday. So just email me, Beth@spiritofsuccess.com. Don't delay though, because the season's underway. I have only limited space for that. So 4 sessions, $400 just for you, and we'll tackle this. We'll get it done. We'll get it done. Look, if you currently coach with me, either in a small group or one-on-one, would you put I do in the chat space just to encourage your peers so that they know that there are those of you who are coaching right now in a small group or individually. Good job. Thanks, guys. That's encouraging, ladies. I hope that you know that. And 4 sessions for $400 is mind-blowing. Don't wait. By the way, we kick off Mondays right each week at Spirit of Success, and we have a First Things First Bible study call. So I invite you to join me and your direct sales sisters on Monday mornings at 10 a.m. East Coast, 7 a.m. Pacific. We meet for 30 minutes for Bible study, devotional, and prayer. And there's no cost to join, but just email me if you'd like the details, Beth@spiritofsuccess.com. And be sure that you joined our Facebook group, our Facebook community group. It's Spirit of Success with Beth Jones Shaw, because I share tips every day there. So you don't have to wait for a class like this. And we've had some great engagement lately. So be sure you check in every day. And just so I can gauge the effectiveness of today, just on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being very helpful, 1 being not real helpful, what was today like for you? What was this past hour like for you? Was it 5 very helpful, 1 not helpful, or somewhere in between? All right. Thank you, guys. Well, very helpful. Good, good. It's so good to know that. So I know we've covered a ton of ground today. Now you understand the power of priorities better. You've identified your goals more effectively. You can schedule your actions into your planner more effectively. Remember, we talked about the 86,400 challenge earlier? Remember, I mentioned that when you wake up each morning, you're handed 86,400 seconds in your day. Your challenge is to determine how to spend them. No matter what you do, you won't get more hours in the day, but you can get more out of them by prioritizing. Those actions that we talked about today, the strategies we discussed today, will lead you to making wise decisions about how you use your time through simple planning and just smart daily habits, guys. You won't just be planning for success anymore. You're going to be realizing success. So ladies, well done today. Well done. How's it feel? Woo-woo. I'll go ahead and stay on. For those who might have questions, you can unmute. For those who have to hop off, I promised you an hour, and there you go. Thank you so much, guys. I hope to see you on our Facebook group and in the future. Be sure to email me by Friday if you want to take advantage of the 400. All right, I'm here if you need. Unmute if you have a question. Thanks, ladies. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Beth.
Yeah. Hey, Norma.
Hi. I just want to say, when I took this a year ago, ladies, I did this and I'm like, okay, I felt like I made a little bit of progress, but then now doing this the second time, I can see where I've made bigger progress than I initially thought. And so I love hearing these things again, because it just takes that much time, at least for me, to get it in here and to get it in action. And so I feel pretty good about myself, where I blocked more than I ever have in this last year, and it was really thanks to this. And so thank you again, Beth. It's putting it in there. It's making it part of my DNA.
I love it, Norma. And I love that you have noticed, and I'm so happy that you've noticed you're farther along than you thought. You started taking baby steps. And for all of us, we just take a baby step. We're not going to eat the elephant one bite at a time. We're going to take a baby step, but that moved into bigger steps and bigger steps. And you've done a whole lot more than you thought that you had. And I love that discovery. Thank you. Bless your heart for sharing that with everybody. I really hope that everybody heard that, and that's an encouragement.
Well,
That
I hope
baby
so
step
too.
twice. Go ahead.
Well,
Say
thank you. And I'm just going to say that because last time I felt a little bit, little overwhelmed, like, oh my goodness, I have to have the stuff. I didn't do this right. And that's not what it was about. It was just making that first step. And so if anyone felt like I did a year ago, hang in there. You guys got this.
That's right. One step. We're not eating the whole elephant. One step. Norma, wisdom. Anybody else? Comment or question for today before we go?
Hey, Beth, this is Christy Gable. Sorry, my husband used my
Christy.
Zoom. He used my Zoom, so I didn't realize his name was popping
I
up.
knew that was you. I knew that was you. That tickled me.
But
That's
anyway,
good.
I think a big aha moment for me, which I've never taken one of your classes, this was offered to me by my upline, is the people versus projects. The fact that you clarified that, I think not only for myself, but for my team as well. We're so used to texting and social media that we forget we can influence with our voice. And that's really that people contact. So I'm getting to the point where my planner is almost there. It's not completely there. And I don't have the timestamps on a daily. I have a weekly. So that's my first commitment, is to make sure that everything is in this planner that I can also teach to my team, because I can take the planner with me everywhere I go.
Yes.
So the people versus projects really hit home for me, that we think we're doing the right things in our daily business, but you're really not if you're not connecting.
Oh, preach. I mean, yes, and amen. All of us can say that. We know that. Thank you for saying it out loud for us, Christy. Thank you so much for that. The people over, it's not that the projects aren't, but we have to do the tasks, but there's a time for that. And that time can be done a little bit later when you can't reasonably call somebody, because it wouldn't be appropriate to call after 9 p.m. or before 9 a.m. Those kinds of things. We take that into consideration, or when we're just not in a place where we can make a call, we get that. So you make those adjustments. But boy, I think you're so right. We have adjusted so much to social media, to texting. We've used those efficiencies. And if I might say, we've abused those efficiencies when it comes to really building and creating those great relationships. And then we wonder why our show averages are dropping, why we're not getting as many guests to the shows, why we don't have hostesses rebooking, you could trace a lot of these things back to the fact that we could do a better job investing in that relationship. And the voice contact, it matters. Even if we're leaving a voicemail, that matters. That really does matter. So thank you. I could preach, you could hear. I don't want to do that. You did a good job. All right, ladies. Hey, you bless my heart. You all bless my heart for being on today. And listen, you can email me anytime, Beth@spiritofsuccess.com, to ask a question that maybe you didn't get asked today, or to share with me some aha or something that you're doing. You will bless my heart even more. Or again, let's get on the Spirit of Success with Beth Jones Shaw Facebook community group and share there as well. That'd be a great way to keep in touch. So I'm available to you in lots of different ways. You know that. So I hope to hear from many of you soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great, great week, a great day. Thank you so much.